the game that has everybody talking right now, the biggest story coming out of Super Wildcard Weekend, and we'll see what happens against Arizona and LA. But the San Francisco 49ers defeat the Cowboys 23-17. So let's go ahead and just talk about what happened at the end of the game. So before all the controversy went down, Dallas tried to go for it on 4th and 11. San Francisco blitzed him and forced him to get the ball out of his hand when he didn't want to, and he tried to hit Cedric Wilson, and he had a good shot at catching the football, but like I said, Dak affected by the pressure, and San Francisco made him get rid of that football when he didn't want to. So San Francisco now has the ball. Elijah Mitchell runs for a yard. Deebo Samuel gets a shot at it, but there is a defensive holding call on Randy Gregory for 5 yards. Trent Williams gets a false start penalty, and that pushes San Francisco back 5 yards. So it's 1st and 15. Elijah Mitchell runs for 2 yards. Then he runs up the middle for 3 yards. Kyle Shanahan draws up a sweep for Deebo Samuel, and this is on 3rd and 10. And he runs for what looked like it was 10 yards and a 1st down. And if he gets this, the game is over. And he's tackled by Trayvon Diggs and Randy Gregory. This is where things started to get interesting because the referees are looking at the spot of the ball. His knee was down, but the ball looked like it didn't cross the 1st down marker. They checked to see where the ball was spotted a couple times, and that second time that they spotted it, he was short. San Francisco decides to go for it on 4th and 1. Trent Williams gets another false start, and that pushes San Francisco back at 4th and 5. And I was thinking, why don't they just punt the football? Just punt the ball, try to pin Dallas back in their own 5-yard line. Let your defense continue to have the success that it was having pretty much the entire game. I don't understand coaching nowadays where things just have to be so difficult rather than just choose the easy option. So I thought that San Francisco should have just punted the football when they didn't get it, try to pin them back, because I think if they had punted it, there was 38 seconds left, and I think the refs had put 4 seconds on the clock. San Francisco punts it to Dallas, so now Dallas has another chance, even though I felt that San Francisco could have put them in a really bad situation, but whatever. 1st and 10, 32 seconds left. Dak Prescott completes a pass to Cedric Wilson for 9 yards. Then he laterals it to CeeDee Lamb. Dak Prescott completes yet another pass to Tony Pollard for 10 yards. Dak Prescott completes another pass to Dalton Schultz for 9 yards. And while Dallas is moving down the field, San Francisco is not protecting the sidelines. Dallas has no timeouts. They're playing way off. Dak is just killing them underneath these short throws, and Dallas's receivers are just running out of bounds. So after that throw, San Francisco finally decides to play the sideline, but the middle is still wide open, and they're on San Francisco's 41. So it's 2nd and 1. Dak Prescott runs for 17 yards. They drew up a QB draw, and there's 14 seconds left. And I'm thinking that they're already prepared, and everyone is going to run up to the line of scrimmage, get set, get ready to spike the ball with a second or 2 left. So the referee is trying to get downfield. He knocks over Dak Prescott in the center because he needed to touch the football for Dallas to be able to spike it. By him doing that, it took too long. Dak Prescott was not able to spiked the ball in time. Dallas's season went bye-bye. I kind of got into an argument with someone that I know about that whole little sequence of events with the referee. Yeah, I was wrong on that. Dak was supposed to hand the ball off to the ref so he could touch it. But either way, even if he did hand it to the ref, I don't know if they still would have had enough time to get off one more play. And before that, they were at San Francisco's 40-yard line. They probably should have just took a couple shots down the field, and maybe they would have gotten a couple cracks at the Hail Mary. I think they should have done that, or Dak runs maybe instead of 17 yards, he runs for 10 yards or 9 yards. Just get a little closer, fall down, and then try to spike it, and then maybe you probably would have had at least 2 seconds left on the clock to try to save your season. But that didn't happen, and that cost them, and they lost. And now people are saying, should Mike McCarthy be fired? He didn't have his team ready. This is all his fault. Is this his fault? The refs screwed Dallas over. Dallas choked, and this is who they are, blah, 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 blah. And for me, I'm saying to myself, well, there was another team that was on that field as well, so let's give them some credit too. And that team was the San Francisco 49ers, who whipped Dallas's ass at the line of scrimmage on the defensive side of the ball. Let's start with the defense, shall we? For San Francisco, K'Wan Williams, 1 INT, 1 pass deflection, 2 combined tackles, 2 solo tackles. Charles Omenihu, 1 sack, 3 combined tackles, 1 solo tackle, 2 assist tackles. Eric Armstead, 1 sack, 4 combined tackles, 1 solo tackle, 3 assist tackle, 1 tackle for loss. DJ Jones, 1 sack, 1 combined tackle, 1 solo tackle, 1 tackle for loss. Kevin Givens, Nick Bosa, Samson Ibukam, 3 of those guys had a half sack. Kevin Givens had a pass deflection. Emmanuel Mosley had 12 combined tackles, 10 solo tackles, 2 assist tackles. Those guys hit Dak Prescott a total of 14 times. Dallas only had 21 rushing attempts and 77 yards total and 1 touchdown. They dominated them at the line of scrimmage. To me, that's where the game was won for San Francisco. I think their defense really stifled Dallas's offense, and Dallas had a hard time getting into a rhythm. Jimmy Garoppolo went 16 for 25, 172 yards total, 1 INT. He was bleh. I mean, he didn't really do a whole lot in this game. Yeah, just a bleh performance. Elijah Mitchell, 27 rush attempts, 96 yards total, 1 touchdown. His longest run was 16 yards. Deebo Samuel, MVP candidate, 10 rushing attempts, 72 yards, 1 touchdown. He was targeted 3 times, had 3 receptions, 38 yards. Brandon Ayuk, targeted 6 times, 5 receptions, 66 yards receiving. Juwan Jennings targeted 5 times, 3 receptions, 29 yards. George Kittle had a quiet day, 3 targets, 1 reception, 18 yards. They're going to have to get him going if they want to beat the Packers next week. Now, as far as Dallas is concerned, as I mentioned, San Francisco held them to only 77 yards rushing, was hit 14 times, but they also had 14 penalties that cost them 89 yards. And I think when those penalties started to really affect them was in the second half, because they get the ball back at the beginning of the second half and you're down 9 points. So, for example, let's go through one of their drives. Ezekiel Elliott is tackled for 1 yard. Dak Prescott completes a short pass to Brandon Schultz for 5 yards. So it's 3rd and 4 on the next possession. Connor Williams gets a false start, 5-yard penalty. So it's 3rd and 9. Yet another penalty on Lay L. Collins for another false start, another 5-yard penalty. So it's 3rd and 14. And then Dak Prescott is sacked for 6 yards. Penalties really hurt them in this game, and they just couldn't get a running game going as well. Dak was 23 for 43, 254 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. He was sacked 5 times. I didn't think he had a great performance, but of course you got to give credit to San Francisco's defense for affecting that performance. But looking at him individually, I didn't think he was too spectacular. He did have a rushing touchdown as well, and he did fumble it, but Dallas recovered. Ezekiel Elliott, 12 attempts, 31 yards rushing. Tony Pollard, 4 attempts, 14 yards rushing. Like I said, not a whole lot doing on the ground. I know I sound like a broken record. CeeDee Lamb only targeted 5 times, 1 reception, 21 yards. Dalton Schultz, 8 targets, 7 receptions, 89 yards. Amari Cooper, 10 targets, 6 receptions, 64 yards, 1 touchdown. Cedric Wilson, 10 targets, 5 receptions, 62 yards. So you gotta give credit to San Francisco's defense. Okay, so all this talk of Dallas didn't show up and they choked and which I'm not trying to make excuses, but it's like you gotta give. I mean, San Francisco was on that field too, and they were a big reason as to why Dallas lost. For Dallas's defensive performance, Anthony Brown had 1 interception and 1 pass deflection, 5 combined tackles, 5 solo tackles. Leighton Vander Esch, I thought he was pretty good. He had 13 combined tackles, 5 solo tackles, 8 assist tackles. Michael Parsons was a beast as well. 10 combined tackles, 3 solo tackles, 7 assist tackles, 1 tackle for loss. I love how he was shooting through the gaps at times. Dallas only had a total of 4 hits on the quarterback, but I thought they did do a good job of stifling San Francisco's running attack, even though it says they rushed for 38 yards and 169 yards. Still, stats don't really tell the whole story. I thought they did a pretty solid job of getting into the backfield as well. So I thought this was kind of a defensive game, a defensive performance for the most part. So now we wait and see what happens with Dallas. Will Mike McCarthy be fired? I don't know. As far as San Francisco, they play the Green Bay Packers next week. Joey Bosa and Fred Warner, I know, got injured. So those are 2 huge losses. But I think San Francisco has shown that they still have some pretty good depth to fill some of those roles. So we'll see, man. We'll see. I'm going to try get through the rest of these other games. Please like and subscribe for more content like this. And that is it. I am out.